more dramatic. Gamora's a bit of Exhibit C, Jane Foster and Thor. I know, Marvel, there's only so many times that this format will work. Hello, lovers, and welcome back to another episode of Starring Cupid, starring me. It's your boy, Zomadodix, nothing more, nothing less, from the east, not the west. Thor 3 is the best, and welcome. Today is special. I'm gonna stop doing that. Today is special because this is a couple I've been wanting to do since season 1. First of all, welcome to all the Marvel nerds and enthusiasts, all the people that love the MCU. That's one of the things that made me want to do this couple so much. Fun fact, to anyone that didn't know me, I am a huge Marvel movies fan. Yes, I'm one of those people. I watched all of them, most of them in the cinema. I cried. I did the whole shebang. I did the whole fan thing. I still am a fan. So this has been on my wish list, one would say, for quite some time. I just didn't find the words, or I didn't find the time in my schedule, but now we got it, and now we're focused, now we're locked in to talk about Tony and Pepper Potts from, well, the entire MCU, but I wanted to cap this episode to everything that happens in Iron Man 2 and a little bit of the first Avengers movie. There's a whole franchise of clips and evidence of these two being in love, but I really wanted to focus on just what we know from the first 2 movies and that short little clip. I'm going to try and be less biased about this one because it's my ex-favorite superhero, but that's not the mission statement here at Starring Cupid. We're here to be critical. We're here to drag. Okay, we're not here to drag. Let's get into Pepper Potts and Tony Stark. This movie was made in 2010 and it is directed by Jon Favreau. Mr. Favreau also portrays the lovable and the bumbling jokester we know as Mr. Stark's personal god, Happy Hogan, in this film and all the others. You know his work on Lion King, Jungle Book, Iron Man, Cowboys and Aliens, and one of my personal favorites, a movie called Chef. Favreau is what I would like to call a special director. I see his efforts and the work he does is wonderful. I was saying this to our producer that he has kind of like this whimsical aesthetic. Like when he makes movies, it's very whimsical. It's very from the eyes of a person with a good imagination. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'm projecting. Maybe I'm giving him way too much credit. But his style feels very whimsical. It feels very, very Disney. I'm so sorry, Mr. Favreau, to say this, but it's very. Yeah, it's great. He's not one of my top 5. And that's not a bad thing. That's not like he's not in my top 5 because he's bad. It's simply a matter of fact. I don't rate him above certain people, but I do know that he is good. And clearly he's good because he has all these like great successful projects under his belt. I almost said under his hand. Wow. He acts great as well. His acting is not that bad. I enjoy his acting in things. He's quite funny. So kudos to that man. Good things for him. Good things about him. We move on to the story, and the story is obviously based off the comics that were originally the work of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, RIP to both of them, legendary kings of the MCU, and characters we have not yet met. If you're a person like me who's never gotten the chance to read the comics, this is our only access to this world, and shout out to them for letting it happen, for bringing us these people. Shout out. The screenplay was done by Justin Theroux. Justin Theroux, from anything comedy related. Okay, well, he was on The Basis of Sex, which is a little bit serious, but if you Google him, you know him from something, I promise you. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know that he did the screenplay until quite recently. I don't go around memorizing the opening credits of movies that I watch, but I just genuinely didn't recall, or I didn't know that it was him. And when I realized that it was him, there was just this immediate and sudden acceptance or realization, like, oh, okay, this makes sense. I saw his name and I was like, okay, that's really not shocking, considering who the main protagonist is and how he acts. I'm not shocked at who wrote this, and that's all I will say on the matter. Moving on to cast, we have Gwyneth Paltrow as our leading lady, Miss Pepper Potts. Paltrow has been in the game since she was tiny. She's famously known for her award-winning performance in Shakespeare in Love, another good movie that I like. She's acted in she's acted in more than 50 things. She was really great in The Royal Tenenbaums, which is a Wes Anderson film. For me, I watched that and I was like, I get you, girl. I get you. That was enough for me. She's really the woman that she thinks she is when it comes to acting, when it comes to these things. So shout outs to her. And then we have the Hollywood heavyweight on the other side with Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. The man, the myth, the method acting that we actually never get tired of. Mr. Robert Downey Jr. from projects like Chaplin, the Sherlock Holmes movies, and basically he is the resident face of Tony Stark for a little over a decade. He really sparked off this entire franchise, so people will kind of remember who he is for the rest of their lives, because he just embedded himself in this character. These were both two perfectly cast characters for me. When people talk about this whole casting thing, they always mention Tony, and I get that. It's true, and I get it. But in regards to Miss Potts, Pepper has a great match as well. There's something about Gwyneth that fits Pepper so much. I don't want to say it until I know exactly what it is, but I can't imagine anyone else playing this character, so shout outs to her, well done to her. Honorable mentions. We're introduced to our new Colonel Rhodey, portrayed by the talented Don Cheadle, Kung Fu Kenny, in this film. He has this really great intro into this, because if you don't know, he was recently replacing Terrence Howard. If you can't see Terrence Howard as Colonel Rhodey, you are welcome. But yeah, he came in with kind of like this attitude of, this is the role that I'm playing now, I'm just gonna grab it and do with it what I want. And he did with it what he wanted. And it's really great. He offers more than just comedy. As the movies progress and as people grow, he adds more to them. He did give me very Black Bestie vibes in this movie, but I promise you it gets better. It doesn't get great, but it gets better. We also have Black Widow's introduction but she's like still incognito, so we get like half of Black Widow introduction, who is portrayed by Scarlett I Am Every Woman Johansson. Yeah, she was here. Yeah, we have lots of introductions in this movie. We got Nick Fury comes through, Agent Coulson comes through. Shield was just up in Tony Stark's business during this movie, and we can discuss whether or not that was necessary or not. We have Mickey Rourke finally, who is the antagonist Whiplash, while the other antagonist in this film. I recently found out that there was more footage of him as Whiplash, and I know that the movie is 2 hours long, but I wish they had found a way to fit that footage in somewhere. It was fine with me, and like it was fine with me knowing that he was the way he was in this movie, until I found out that there is existing footage of him doing more. Then I was just like, okay, then why the hell are we watching this? Why the hell are we only seeing half of this? I don't know, but great job, Mr. Rourke. Wonderful work. I have to mention Paul Bettany as Jarvis. I know that all he does is do Jarvis like the voice in this, but I love me some automated Albert, love Jarvis, and I love what Paul Bettany ends up doing with Jarvis. And then I hate Vision. Oh guys, I hate Vision so much, but that's not what this episode is about. If you have by any chance never seen this film, I don't know what to tell you. It's not one of those movies that works as an isolated movie. The context from the previous movie and just the knowledge of the entire cinematic universe as a whole makes this movie better. Movies shouldn't do that, but that's the case with franchises. Also, it's not the best movie of the trilogy, so a lot of people don't rate it very highly. So I don't know if I should recommend it to you, person. It'll depend on whether or not you're in this Marvel game for the long run, or if you're here just to see what the hype is about. I will say though, it is worth the ride. The MCU is worth the ride. But so if you have seen it but you cannot recall what happened, here I am to remind you. The story is about our charismatic hero, Iron Man, as he returns and must combat a new powerful enemy while battling his own slow demise. That's the short bit. That's all you need to know without me completely revealing what happens. If you still plan on watching this franchise, you must be warned once again that I'm about to spoil everything. Everything. Prepare yourselves for that. If you're a person that thinks that they will remember what I said in here, just quit. Just stop listening right now. I am not responsible for any spoilers you hear from this moment forward. You brought yourself here, and thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing, but I'm not responsible for anything you hear after this. All of that being said, let's kick it off with Pippa and Tony. Our first introduction to this couple comes in Iron Man 1. We can question if it was morally correct for Tony to be hitting on his assistant at the time, but he was once a war criminal, so there's that. So they formed this kind of bond in the beginning. It grows in a very linear sense, and then by the time that Iron Man 2 came around, it kind of peaks right at the end, where he essentially waits until she quits before he's like, okay, great, so let's be together, which I like that. I like the linear timeline that this relationship follows, but that's about where the compliments end, because from the jump we're given this impression that Pippa is the only person that can tame the man, the myth, the legend, the playboy philanthropist. It's that idea that we're always sold in movies, especially action movies, we sold this idea that bad boys can be cured by just good, wholesome women. And that is a horrible idea. Boo, down with that sort of trope. I hate it so much, and it's so evident everywhere. But we're meant to just like be cool with it because it's an action movie, so I guess. Pepper shouldn't be so good that it makes him change. He should want to change just to be a better person. Tony should want to be a better human being. I guess I understand that that's not his character right now, and he eventually does want to get better for like real reasons. But right now it was just very childish of him to just not be better because this woman requires better. You won't see it fully in this film, but Tony and Pepper, they have some good qualities. I promise you that this is not just me slandering them. They do have some good qualities. And one of them is that they both have the two C's that you need. They have chemistry and they have connection. It's undeniable, and it's more visible when either one of them is around someone else. And I'm just like, nah, y'all don't make sense. Like, y'all don't make sense on paper, and visually it's just not hitting me the same until I see them together, and it's like, yeah, this works, this makes sense. They've got that classic she's the boss and he's the goofy one aesthetic, that kind of couple that we see. And MCU likes pairing goofy men with women that will walk over them, or women that will like handle them. Exhibit A, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Okay, fine, small down. Exhibit B, Star-Lord and Gamora. Okay, fine, a little dramatic. Gamora's a bit of a... Exhibit C, Jane Foster and Thor. I know, Marvel, there's only so many times that this format will work. It worked for Tony because of the person that he is, but at some point you have to realize that why are you just doing this? Why are you making these goofy men and pairing them off with women that you know will have to just struggle with them? Do y'all hate women? The problem now is that even though they've got the other two C's, Tony cannot communicate his feelings very effectively. And it's a problem that like follows him for all these movies, for countless movies. But it's a real problem here because this is not a group of superhero dudes that you can go toe to toe with. This is a relationship. This is a romantic relationship. We're meant to excuse it because this film falls under the action genre, and superhero movies aren't here to show us good romantic relationships. But like, that's weird. It's weird that we have to excuse it, and it's weird that action movies don't pay attention to it, because we can see what good romantic pairings and good romantic relationships being shown to us look like in action movies, and it doesn't take away from the story. We've proved that you can be a great action movie and still have people that fall madly in love with each other, and it doesn't ruin the things. It doesn't ruin the story. People had time to fit in S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't going to be a part of this movie yet. People found time to fit S.H.I.E.L.D. into this narrative, but nowhere at no time did they think, okay, but like maybe we should make Tony a better person for Pepper right now. The closest time that they get to him being a better person for Pepper before like everything else happens is when he goes over to her office and tried to like apologize, but even that apologizing was not very sincere. All of this just because he didn't want to tell her that he was dying, which makes no sense to me, because Pepper is one of his like top supporters, if not the most supportive person he knows. She's really his ride or die. She's proven it multiple times. Even when he's running around being childish, even when he's being reckless and all these very dangerous and scary things. Yo, Pepper gets so scared. Pepper gets so scared by everything. Rightfully so, though. There's nothing not scary about the things that's Tony sometimes puts her, the situations that he puts her in sometimes. Like, there's nothing not scary about that. But she's still stuck around, like she's still here. My girl is still popping, and even as the movies progress, she gets better. I realized that I said I'm not going to reference anything else, but I just keep making references to movies that you've probably not seen yet or have seen and understand what I'm saying. So we know that Pepper isn't suited for this life. She never wanted to be suited for this life, but she still stays around. She's still holding it down. She's still this lovely and wonderful person to Tony. So I don't understand why you wouldn't feel like you could tell this wonderful and supportive person that, hey, I'm dealing with this thing. And he told Rhodey before he told Pepper, and I'm still not over that. But that's a conversation for another day. Anyway, they need a lot more of that big C communication. I think it gets better. I think it does get better because their relationship gets better. So something must have changed, and hopefully it's that C word that has changed. I call these two the mom and dad because that's essentially what they are. It's the role that they fulfill for everyone else. They were kind of the first MCU ship that sailed, and it sailed and sailed for quite some time. I wish that Pepper was allowed to be as whimsical or as reckless or as free as Tony gets to be, because he has all these qualities that make him terrible to be someone's partner. And yet people just adore him. Like, people genuinely adore Tony Stark for right reasons, though. Like, I'm not saying people that like him are weird. I understand why you like him. I just wish that Pepper got the chance to be all the things that he is and still be liked, because now when you put them side by side, you have this reckless, fun-loving dad that's like very funny and very charismatic. There's obviously going to be like this favoring of him when you put him next to Pepper, who is seen as this responsible, sensible woman, kind of like the mom, and she's now considered a buzzkill because she wants Tony to not be destructive and not be. She essentially wants him to be an adult, and then it's just kind of like, oh, boo, Pepper, boo, and it's weird. It's weird because what kind of man is like 35 and you have to drag him for him to function? Like, no, just be an adult. Just be an adult. Be a better person for this person that is currently dating you or wants to date you. And you can clearly see that these antics and these actions are not going to hold up. So I'm glad that there was change. It's not the greatest change, but I'm glad that there was change over these movies, and that Pepper finally got a partner that is a way better version of the man we see in this movie. Shout out to them both, though. I still love them. They're my favorite MCU couple, which says a lot about the rest of them. It's time again for my high and low lights of this movie. Like I said in the beginning, or sometime in the middle, this is not the best movie in the whole cinematic universe. It might possibly be the best one in the trilogy because I don't really rate Iron Man 3 that much. But I do have feelings for this movie, and I do have highs and low lights for this movie. My likes, I really, like I mentioned before in the casting section, I really love Paul Bettany as Jarvis. That's just like an overall thing, but also I like Jarvis more than I like Vision. So any movies where we still got Jarvis, I really enjoy Paul Bettany, I love him. It might just be my very biased way of saying I just love Mr. Bettany so much. Respectfully, love him. I also like this entire character of the hammer dude, the guy that owns the dude that owns the other weapons manufacturing company, and he's played by Sam Rockwell. I like what he is for Tony in this movie, which is kind of like a sort of reflection, because I feel like that dude is his name Justin, I think. I feel like that dude is the mirror reflection of Tony Stark if he had decided to not become a better person. And because he has this very clear and obnoxious mirror reflection of who he could have been, I kind of feel like it pushes Tony to move on with his metamorphosis. Like he acts as a catalyst. I know I'm giving him a lot of credit, even though he was just like this war criminal that had a very, very bad competitive streak. And I call him a war criminal because he was making weapons, but just because they were for the army doesn't mean he isn't like a war criminal. He was making weapons, that's why. But anyway, yeah, so I like what he does for Tony in this, purely by acting as kind of like a douchebag thermometer. Like when he reached a certain point where he felt like him and Hammer were the same gent, and he was just like, no, this is not what I want. This is not what I want for myself. So yeah, love that man. When Tony fights in the suit with Rhodey, and when he's just fighting the suit alone, I like how the special effects team makes the suit look like real, but also very, that this thing is a robot, and it's making the robot noises. It has the robot look. Like when someone punches him or someone blasts him, you can see the scratches. It feels very realistic, if this was a realistic thing that could happen. So that's why shout out to the special effects team. They did that, and it only gets better and better as the movies progress. So love the suit action. Yeah. Dislikes: the screenplay reads kind of funny. It just reads kind of funny. I want you to rewatch this movie and don't think about how the story is progressing. Don't think about the characters in it. Don't think about what this means for the other Marvel movies you watch. Just listen to them. Just listen to them talk. It sounds so conceited. It sounds... I don't know how to put it into words. It sounds very obnoxious. And there's this thing that Tony and Pepper do a lot. I don't know if it's a writer thing or if it happens in the other movies. I'll have to check if it happens in the other movies, but I think it does. But they kind of speak over each other. If they're talking about something or they're arguing about something, they'll speak over each other, and you as the viewer, you have to kind of decipher. You have to decipher what you're trying to learn from this argument. And I understand that people do that sometimes, that they do that technique where they'll make people argue over each other. And that's great, but it happens, I think, 3 times in total in this film, and I don't know how many times in the others. So I don't know. It just happened way too much in this one as well. It makes the love harder to see for me personally, because I said, like, I'm a big communication gal. So when people are just talking over each other and not listening to each other, it's making it harder to see the love here. But that's just me. I'm that person. I don't like how they shoot the scenes when Tony or Rhodey are inside the suit. Like, that full close-up where it's like it's lit in a way that you can't see the person's ears or their hair, so it's just their eyes and their forehead and their nose and stuff. I like what it does. I love what that close-up does for like the emotion part of it. Like, you can see the emotion behind this tin man, and that's cool, but it irritates me I don't know if I want them to zoom out. I don't know if I want them to make it like a simulation kind of thing. But the way it's done right now, I don't know, man. It's a bit uncomfortable for me. Also, it just feels like this person's face is just filling up the screen. I don't know what I want them to do better. I don't know if they can't really do better now since, yeah. We have reached the end of the show, and it would be completely wrong of me if I didn't use this episode to push my MCU couples agenda. So I wanted to make this week's battle an Avengers battle, a very specific Avengers battle. We're talking about the top 3, the big boys of the Avengers. Mr. Stark is obviously excluded because this entire episode is about him. But I do want the record to show that of the 3 couples mentioned in this episode, including with this battle, Tony and Pepper are my favorites. That is all I will say. I will not explain myself. Just rewind the episode. But also, just look at the couples that I've mentioned and think to yourself, are Pepper and Tony really worse than this? I don't know. Anyway, in this corner, we have Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers from any Captain America movie you can think of. Then they are going up against Jane Foster and Thor from all the Thor-related films. By the end of this whole franchise, some people get their happily ever after, or they get their realities like torn apart. So it's up in the air. It's up in the air about which couple is better in terms of that. But I have already made my decision. Personally, I still think Steve is evil for not acknowledging his true love, Bucky with the good hair. But that's an argument that you can have, lovers. You can discuss this. I want to hear y'all out. I want to hear what y'all think about these pairings and what Marvel should do better in the future. Yeah, Marvel needs to get better at this whole female love interest thing. We can't just be here to push your protagonist story, or if that is what we're here to do, at least make it a good time. I'm not trying to be out here dating a superhero and suffering. And that's all we have for you this week. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for coming through. Please don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I'm not sure if there's reviewing like things for the other platforms that we're on. If they are, I will find out. Please leave us a good review. Please let me know how you feel about the show on our Twitter @StarringCupid. The poll will be up soon after we drop the episode, so look out for that. Thank you so much for riding with us. Thank you so much for being with us. I hope you have a lovely week, a very prosperous week. Lots of opportunities for you. You go get it. You go do it. Bye.